Okay, we're about to get started, so
Good morning. My name is Jack Moline, Rabbi Jack Moline. I am the chair of the board of the Interfaith Alliance. I thank you all for joining us this morning. We at the Interfaith Alliance are devoted to protecting faith and freedom, and I cannot think of an issue that is more within our mission than the one that we're addressing today. In the Jewish tradition, we hold a particular disdain for people who are, as we say, sinners with the permission of the Torah. That is, we deplore individuals who selectively apply the permissions and restrictions to claim that they are within the sacred instructions in pursuit of disreputable and destructive ends. If you'd like to see an example of such people in an American context, you need only look to the production and distribution of Obsession. Claiming a concern for the United States and a documentation of aberrant elements in disparate expressions of Islam, the creators of this film have constructed a thinly veiled call for disparagement and distrust of all Muslims. And exercising the rights guaranteed to them by the Constitution, the distributors of this DVD have attempted, by inference and innuendo, to limit the rights of Muslims to enjoy the free exercise of their faith. To add insult to injury, the targeted markets for this film are states considered critical to both presidential candidates and are chosen in order to influence the outcome of the election in favor of the producer's candidate. Free expression, free press, free elections, all of these values that Americans cherish and protect are being used cynically to justify the excesses and instigations of Obsession. Terrorism is a real threat to this country and, in fact, to every country. Our next president, whoever he may be, will need to deal with terrorism as a strategy on many fronts and from many sources. The misdirection of Obsession not only sullies and alienates the adherents of Islam, but distracts the attention of all concerned Americans from the genuine threats from terrorist renegades of many origins, including non-Muslim Americans. We at the Interfaith Alliance call on both Senator McCain and Senator Obama to repudiate this film and reject the support of those associated with it. We call on them to promote a pluralistic view of religion and faith as a source of unity and healing in our country. We call on both candidates to reject the use of religion as a political weapon. The good work of interfaith relations all over this country would be strengthened by encouragement from the next President of the United States. Before I introduce Reverend Weldon Gaddy, who's standing by on the telephone, I'd like to add a personal note of disappointment that the Clarion Fund and its founder, who is also the producer of this film, are tied closely to a prominent Jewish organization. As a board member of the Interfaith Alliance, I promise to turn a critical eye first to my own community. The rabbi whose name appears in the credits of this film as producer and co-writer has a hard repentance ahead of him on Yom Kippur. I will include his actions in my own confession of sins. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you the president of the Interfaith Alliance, Reverend Weldon Gaddy.
Thank you, Rabbi Moline. I am very sorry that I can't be in the room with all of you to welcome you to our offices and to express my pleasure at working again with the organizations that are represented there this morning. Obviously, you have been welcomed, I hope, with open arms by Rabbi Moline. I'm sure of that, and you can understand why we take such pride in his leadership among us. When the fundamental freedom, rights, and institutions of our democracy are used in attempts to achieve narrow, partisan, and or sectarian purposes, our democracy is threatened. When efforts are made to spread hatred that destroys the possibility of pluralism, to restrict rights in a manner that erodes freedom, and to stoke fears that alter the civil electoral debates that nurture the democratic process, something is bad wrong. And when all of this is done under the guise of religion or an interest in religion, the soaring vision of our nation, conceived by our founders and elaborated in our Constitution, must be protected. Though people have a right to advocate for bigotry, and media outlets have a right to sell their delivery services for money, all of us have a responsibility to raise political, moral, and spiritual questions about the mass distribution of ideological materials aimed at pitting Americans against each other, designating a blacklist of religions in this nation, and inspiring sick minds to spray gas on women and children gathered for worship in a mosque. The Interfaith Alliance exists to encourage interreligious cooperation and help demonstrate the positive contributions that religion can make to the nation. Thus, we challenge religion-based divisiveness as well as the manipulation of both religion and politics in a manner that weakens the integrity of religion and the vitality of politics. For that reason, we call on Americans to speak out against the propagation of materials aimed at demonizing Muslims or any other religious group for the purpose of advancing a candidate for political office. We call on them to challenge the very idea that a person's religion makes that person less a citizen than others who identify with a majority religion or no religion at all. And we call on Americans to refute the political strategy of stereotyping a religion through lying about its essential nature in order to prey on people's fears, make one candidate more attractive than another, divide the American public, and advance a singular political point of view. The assurance of religious liberty and the guarantee of a vital democracy are inextricably linked together in our government. To those whose work erodes both while stirring hatred, let us say enough, be done, in order that we may get on with an important election in which all candidates are encouraged to respect religious pluralism and to commit themselves to the protection of a vital democracy.
Thank you, Dr. Getty. Good morning. My name is Harris Tarrant, the Muslim Public Affairs Council, and I will serve as your MC for the remaining portion of today's press conference. Starting the week of the anniversary of 9/11, some 70 U.S. newspapers and magazines distributed DVD copies of a controversial film called Obsession, Radical Islam's War Against the West, as a paid advertisement inserted in Sunday papers in 12 key electoral swing states. An estimated 28 million copies of the DVD was paid for by a somewhat mysterious organization calling itself the Clarion Fund. The DVD has been called an attempt to utilize anti-Muslim fear-mongering to sway the American electorate. Since Obsession's debut on national TV in 2005, MPAC's Truth Over Fear Countering Islamophobia campaign has provided more than 50 educational workshops across the country featuring a critique and analysis, an educational video on Islamophobia, and has trained community members to educate others about the destructive value of bigotry and prejudice. Since the start of Clarion's campaign to distribute the DVD in key swing states last month, interfaith communities and leaders across the country have voiced their criticism and concern about both the film's play on gross stereotypes and have remained committed in their steadfastness to work harder in promoting understanding and promoting appreciation of each other's cultures and faiths. Last week, a small group of prominent religious leaders around the country drafted an open letter expressing their deep concern about the dangerous role that a film like Obsession can play in fanning the flames of mistrust. This call has reached beyond religious and political persuasions. It is a call to counter hate and preserve America's pluralistic integrity. In the past 5 days, more than 40 rabbis, reverends, bishops, imams, and professors of religion have united to condemn the DVD's attempt at inciting fear and furthering ignorant stereotypes. I will not now read to you a copy of the statement and letter that has been put out by interfaith leaders. We, the undersigned religious leaders, representing a wide spectrum of theological beliefs and political persuasions, have come together in a moral consensus to voice our deep concern over the recent distribution of a deeply divisive and anger-provoking DVD called Obsession: Radical Islam's War Against the West, to residents across the United States. The singular impact of the DVD is not to fight our common threat of terrorism, but to mischaracterize Islam in a way that dehumanizes Muslims. Unfortunately, 28 million copies of the DVD were distributed in 12 electoral swing states by 70 newspapers as paid advertisement. This is a testament to how widely acceptable anti-Muslim prejudice has become in our country. If these same publications had distributed a film portraying the Ku Klux Klan's views as common to all Christians, the outrage would have been immediate and overwhelming. We do not pretend to know the goals of those who distributed the DVD. We do know, however, that the distribution of the content of this DVD is absolutely inconsistent with what it means to be fair-minded Americans. Invoking fear and hatred in American voters is not the way to address the real problems of extremism and terrorism that faces our nation. Obsession serves as a divisive political ploy that undermines the integrity of American religious pluralism. Indeed, it is the duty of every American to stand against those who would divide our common and cherished beliefs by inciting fear and furthering ignorant stereotypes. We invite those who distributed this DVD to engage us in conversation about what it means to be a believing American and how our beliefs about how we teach each other across deep differences is the best way to confront and defeat extremism and terrorism. We are determined to lead our communities in the effort to foster mutual understanding, to stand firm against the tide of bigotry, and to protect American pluralism. As for the rest of America, please stand with us, determined in your conviction to lead our communities toward mutual understanding while protecting and promoting the security of the United States and its precious pluralism. We're joined now by Chris Seipel, President of the Institute of Global Engagement.
Good morning. Good to be with you. I'm the President of the Institute for Global Engagement. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank with legs that promotes sustainable environments for religious freedom worldwide. As a Christian organization, we believe that the heart of religious freedom is respect with and reconciliation with the other, whoever the other might be within our own respective societies across the globe. In fact, we believe that religious freedom, thoughtfully understood and appropriately applied, is the ultimate counterterrorism tool. And that is why, in particular, we find the movie, and I personally, as someone from an evangelical persuasion, find the movie Obsession mind-boggling. Why would we intentionally show profound disrespect for a significant minority within our own American community? And if you talk to any Muslim brother or sister in humanity, as I do often, no matter their political stripe or their theological stripe, from left to right, liberal to conservative, they have been profoundly disrespected by this film. Why would we intentionally do that to our fellow Americans? More maddening, however, is why would we therefore, as a result, intentionally alienate the very group with whom we have to partner in engaging the Muslim world across the globe in efforts to defeat and preempt extremism and terrorism. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we are happy to stand here today with our brothers and sisters in humanity across the faith spectrum, but especially our Muslim brothers and sisters, in condemning the film, but also, as was noted by Harris in the reading of the declaration there, in inviting those who put out the film, or those who have concerns about the film or have concerns about us. I don't care. Let's have the conversation. If we don't embody that which we seek to imbue, if we don't demonstrate respect for the other, what right do we have to engage the world And how do we think that we will ever win in the fight, the common fight against terrorism? Thank you.
Now I will ask Mark Johnson, Executive Director of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, to address us.
Thank you and good morning. The Fellowship of Reconciliation is America's oldest interfaith multicultural peace organization. It is founded in belief in nonviolent social change and in the fellowship of all faiths and all traditions. I think the best response to the video would be to break it in two and throw it away as a nonviolent act. We have to know and understand what this tool is trying to do to us. It's trying to shape our emotions through visual images, through our subconscious, as well as through lies and deceit, through exaggerations. It is a tool which ought to raise the righteous indignation of anyone who views it. It is eloquent at times, but here eloquence is the enemy of truth. We have lost some of our capacity for discernment because we don't spend enough time engaged with one another in understanding our faiths, and particularly the peace focus of our faiths. The affability in this DVD is a front for bigotry. This is a not quite transparent effort, as has already been observed, to demonize Muslims. But it also demonizes all who have sacrificed their lives in the service of love and peace, whether they be Jews or Buddhists or Christians or Muslims or Baha'i. All faiths have people who have sacrificed themselves to love. Islam has been an integral part of American society since before America was founded. Muslims have been a part of this society and culture from our beginning. We need to recognize and celebrate their contributions to this democratic society. As Chris Simple suggested, those of all faiths must, in a situation like this, stand in solidarity with our Muslim brothers and sisters throughout this country and throughout this world. I think I can also speak on behalf of a new interfaith community called the Olive Branch Interfaith Peace Partnership and bring to this conversation their core and discussed at this DVD. Among our most important values in America is its pluralism, religious and political. It is in support of that pluralism, that precious attribute of this country and culture, that we should raise our voices against this DVD. So speaking for people of all faiths, I urge people to make their love for one another known and to seek peace in this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And our final speaker is Dr. Syed Sayed of the Islamic Society of North America, who is the National Director for Interfaith and Community Outreach Alliance.
Good morning, and thank you, friends and colleagues. I represent Islamic Society of North America, which is a grassroots organization from California to New York Island. All different mosques, Islamic centers, Islamic organizations and institutions throughout the country are experiencing a wonderful environment of trust and confidence that we have been able to build during the last 45 years. It is in a situation like this we realize the strength of our vibrant community and the strength of the pluralist democracy that is America. It is in this situation we understand that we have been able to create an environment in this country where interfaith dialogue is not just a cosmetic exercise, but it has become a way of life in America. So it is in this kind of environment that many of our friends, many of our colleagues and neighbors of different faiths have come forward and expressed their solidarity, expressed their resentment in very strong terms throughout the country. And that is what makes us proud of the society. During the last 45 years of our existence, we have fought many fronts and many different influences here which were negative, ugly, which wanted to demonize not only Muslims, demonize other faiths and different races. But the tradition that generations of different religious communities in America have created, that tradition really makes us have that sense of confidence that these things are not going to destroy that environment. So I remember only 50, 60 years ago, close to our headquarters in Indiana, lynching was performed here in one of the cities in Muncie, Indiana. And we remember very many stories that took place in this very country. But then the situation has evolved. Our joint struggle to fight against racism and bigotry has given us an America that we can project as a model for the rest of the world. Today, American Muslim community has become a bridge of understanding between the vast Islamic community throughout the world and America. Today, when different governments in Europe, Germany, France, England, Belgium, and other countries, they are sending their Muslim leaders to America to see how American Muslims are integrated in the American mainstream. We have a wonderful scholar here coming from Germany. So he has been sponsored to study Islamic organizations in America. Some time back, we had a scholar, a PhD scholar from University of Stockholm, to do her PhD on Muslims in Chicago. Her dissertation was published, and you will be amazed. The name of the dissertation is Chicago and American Medina, because it is based, the environment in Chicago, where Muslims, Christians, Jews, people of different faiths are together working for the enrichment of Chicago. It reminds us the historical experiment in Islamic history, where these Abrahamic faiths created wonderful examples of pluralist societies. Today in America, it is that dream, the fulfillment of that Islamic vision that we are together working for. So that's why when we hear about things like this, on the one hand, we are dismayed, we are disappointed because we are the direct targets. But on the other hand, we believe that we have enough energy, enough strength, enough vibrancy within the community and outside the community. We have built enough bridges. We have created a trust and confidence. Next month, we will have a wonderful event here in America. 30 synagogues and 30 mosques will come together, and jointly, Muslims and Jews will be condemning Islamophobia on the one hand and anti-Semitism on the other hand. We will have several activities. If you look at the newsletters of different Islamic centers and the websites of those Islamic centers, they are not talking about the Islamic rituals that the Muslim communities are performing. No, the major news of every Islamic center today, with a sense of pride, is how many Jewish leaders visited their Islamic center, how many Christian neighbors are involved in joint projects and programs with the Muslim neighbors. This is what America is. This is what we want to reinforce, and this is what we want to get out of this challenge that we are facing today. Best wishes, and we hope we will be able to fulfill that dream.
Thank you, Dr. Said. And now we'll open up the floor for questions from the press, if there are any, to any of the speakers. Not great. Thank you so much for being here today. And we'd like to thank all of the leaders on behalf of the Muslim Public Affairs Council and the Interfaith Alliance and all the participating organizations. Thank you.